Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Bates, and I am a 12-year survivor of a bout with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I am on the board of the Minnie Pearl Cancer Foundation here in Nashville, Tennessee, and I was going to tell you a little bit about my history to, first of all, to raise some hope out there that this is a disease that if you put 100% of your effort in to beat it, you have a chance, a fighting chance, and I am a physical specimen sitting here in front of you today that survived. So let me give you a little bit of my history. 1998, March of 1998, my wife was away for the weekend, and I was having what they almost call labor pains now because I had a tumor that had started in my lower intestinal tract and metastasized down to the artery that fed both legs. But my intestinal tract had been completely closed and I had bile buildup all the way up into my throat area. So in a sense, I was effectively killing myself with bacteria at the short period of time, and my body was reacting to that. Somehow I got myself to the hospital on a Monday morning, and this happened to be when I lived in Memphis. Within minutes, they had put me on a table and were running a CT scan over my body and ultimately found a softball-sized tumor. And over the course of the next 2 or 3 days, in the middle of the shock and awe of how can this happen to me, we sat down with some friends and developed what I would call a battle plan as to what I was going to do. Now, you ask, first of all, the question is, how can this happen to me? The answer is, how can it not happen to you? We are all can possibly be diagnosed with cancer in our lifetime. And in truth, the older you get, probably the more of a chance you're going to have to be diagnosed at some point in time, especially if you're a male. But the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma that it turns out that I had metastasized itself to where I was quote-unquote called stage 4. And by that I mean I had major organs involved. And when I went through the surgery to remove the small intestinal problem that I had, the diagnosis was that I probably wasn't going to live longer than 6 months. Now, that's a shock to the system right there. And I can imagine that most people that are probably viewing this, the questions arise as to, what do I do now? What are my odds? Am I going to live? What happens to my family unit? What are the next 6 months going to be? How are they going to survive? All those questions start pervading your mind. And I'll tell you, there's 2 things you have to focus on when this occurs. Number one, you have to completely remove yourself from the listening to the what are my chances of survival, because your chances are 0 or 100. You're going to live or you're not. And you have to put yourself in the mindset that you are going to live and be here like I am 12 years from now, by the grace of God, just being here. Secondly, you have to formulate a battle plan. And that includes querying your oncologist, who is not the end-all be-all in terms of information, querying your support group, which Minnie Pearl has a terrific, terrific group of people to answer questions, help guide you early enough in the process as to help you plan your defense programs as to what you're going to do going forward. You have to query your support groups, your friends, to help you, and you have to data mine on the internet to get as much information as you can to figure out how you are going to beat this disease. Most people go into shock and awe. It's a deer in the headlights. And at the end of the day, you have to get through that, get it behind you, and get all the information so that you can formulate the right battle plan to help you going forward. One of the questions you have to ask your oncologist is, what is the standard treatment for what I have? And where did the treatment come from? How long has it been in place? Who are you talking to? Where is your data source coming from? Are you talking to the different cancer centers around the country to see what treatments they're doing, anything new that's occurring, has it changed in the past period in time. You have to have that information, and they have to be able to confirm that right off the tip of the tongue, that they're involved, not on an island, but they're involved with all of the major cancer centers around the country to make sure that what is being brought to you is the latest treatment to help you survive. So that's number one, and it's kind of like your plate of armor in your fight to get through the cancer. You've got somebody, an advocate on your side who's a doctor who's ultimately answering to you the questions that you have and has not put themselves out on an island as the end-all be-all, because let me tell you something, they're not. They don't know everything at all times, and they have to go to their own resources to get help to help you. So that's number one. Number two, you have to have substantial time on your hand to get out on the internet and look and build your own knowledge base. But I'll caution you, one of the things that you're going to find is the data is inconsistent. This is where it's crucial that you find a support group like a Mini Pearl who can help you work your way through the plethora of data that you can now find on the internet. And I tell you, from 10 years ago, it's multiplied exponentially from what I had access to what you now have access to in 2010. But you have to have a group, and not your doctors, but a group of people who live like you do and deal with this every day, who can help you walk through the data and mine it and help you come to some sort of conclusions about what you're reading and what this really means to you. And then really number three, and this was critical in my care, you have a support group of special friends that are formed around you to help with just someone you can talk to about what you're going through. Not necessarily an oncology professional or someone who's involved in cancer support all the time, but just a group of friends who will listen, who will be there for you as a support group, and will help lift you up and be there for the fight. This is, as I think back and reflect upon what I went through in the years, this is where you really wanted to have what somebody just mentioned to me was a co-captain directing the ship here, because the life-changing experience I was about to go through was something you just can't plan.